The massive and glaring problem in our healthcare system in the United States is that there is a conflict of interest. You, the user, are both an asset to these corporations and a liability. You are an asset by paying your premiums and creating a revenue stream for them. But the moment that you get sick, you become a liability because healthcare costs are one of the largest costs that these companies face. And when you add the element that these companies, a lot of the time, are for-profit, investor-backed, publicly traded companies, you start to realize that when you are both the asset and the liability, the problems that we face, the problems that led up to the recent events that just happened that I'm sure a lot of you are aware of. Because of this conflict of interest, it is the direct reason why the sentiment and resentment for the healthcare industry exists. Now, I am in no way, and I want to make this clear, I am in no way condoning violence against others. With that said, because of these recent events, I think it is a very appropriate time to look from a financial lens, to look at our healthcare system and see why that resentment exists. And it 100% comes from a financial place. So, my name is Derek, and I got my degree in finance. You don't have to. Let's put that degree to work, and let's analyze some of the troubling statistics that a lot of people have to face on a daily basis, because a lot of people, yourself and myself included, are insured by these companies. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Now, I think the best way to do this is to go over the statistics, because these financial statistics speak for themselves. With that said, I want to warn you, ignorance is bliss, and by the end of this video, because of these statistics, you might be a little more pissed than you were before you watched it. But at the same time, we have to be educated in these subjects if we want any chance at making a change and bettering the future. So let's hit the ground running. In 2024, the average cost of an employee-sponsored family healthcare plan was a whopping $25,572. On top of that, this is a 6% increase from just last year. 6% both outpaces wage growth and inflation, which means right off the bat, you can see that there is a profit maximizing component in these businesses. They are not just countering the cost of wage growth. They are not just countering the cost of inflation. They are countering the cost plus adding a couple of percentage points to boost their profits. And you might be saying to yourself, well, maybe that's okay, as long as these profits are reinvested into research and development to better healthcare odds. Unfortunately, as we go down the list of these statistics, you'll quickly see that that's probably not the case. And here's the thing, even if you take this further back over the last decade, healthcare costs have increased faster than wage growth and faster than inflation. And it's not a recent trend, because if you go back even further, since the year 2000, healthcare costs have outpaced inflation. And over the last 15 years, premiums to cover a family have increased 55%. And because of this, the United States spends $12,555 per person on healthcare. This is by far and significantly the highest cost per person out of basically every developed nation. And in fact, it's about double the average cost of other developed nations. And again, so what, you might be asking? If we spend more per person on healthcare, maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that means that we are improving the odds through research and development. Here's the problem. We spend 8% of that on administrative costs. This is more than double of other developed nations. And this is where it gets interesting, because the pay for C-suite executives, including CEOs, are usually considered an administrative expense. And what's disheartening is that the millions, and sometimes billions when you include stock options, the millions of dollars of pay to the C-suite level executives and the CEO is not even the biggest problem with our healthcare system. No, the major problem is that conflict of interest I mentioned at the beginning of this video. The major problem is how you are both an asset and a liability to these publicly traded companies. And this problem, which we're going to talk about, is only made worse by the monopolistic tendencies of this industry. In 2021, the average claim denial rate for the industry was 18%. That means that half of the players in this market denied claims at a higher than 18% rate, at a higher than 1 in 5 person rate. This represents billions of dollars of healthcare costs denied every single year. And while 18% is already horrible, some healthcare plans denied as high as 80%. And when you talk to the average American, 22% of them will tell you that they at some point in their life have had a claim denied. And you probably know that that is a major problem with all insurance companies: car insurance, home insurance, and health insurance. The difference is health insurance is where it matters in regards to life and death. So if these insurance companies are denying so many claims, maybe they just can't afford them. As you probably know, that's not the case. In 2022, the top 5 health insurance providers earned a collective $69 billion in profits. That is over a 25% increase in their profits over the last 5 years alone. And where do all those profits go? Well, naturally, some of it goes to the CEO. And on the screen right now, I'll put some notable annual salaries to these CEOs. And for perspective, these numbers are probably over 200 times higher than the average compensation for a doctor, the people actually saving lives. And on top of all of this, CEO compensation, as I'm sure a lot of you are aware, is a lot of the time based on the performance of their stock. Because not only are they compensated with stock options, but their literal job security is based on whether they can return maximum value and wealth to shareholders. This is what's known as a financial fiduciary duty to the shareholders. And it is a common concept in corporate finance. The difference is if you're selling cars or burgers, your decisions to maximize profit, while they do affect everyone's lives, they do not directly affect life and death of your users. And it only gets worse. While the CEOs and C-suite executives are being paid millions of dollars, while the top 5 health insurance companies are generating upwards of $69 billion in profits, on the very other end of the spectrum, do you know what the most likely reason for bankruptcy is? It's medical debt. While these CEOs are making millions and these companies are making billions, 67% of all bankruptcies are related to medical debt. That is over 500,000 families every single year that lose financial stability, that lose the ability to provide basic necessities for their loved ones. That is 500,000 lives ruined through bankruptcies alone, directly tied to an industry which, on the other side of the spectrum, is making billions of dollars. So, not only does the United States spend more than double on healthcare costs per person of pretty much every other developed nation, not only does the United States spend 8% on administrative costs compared to the 2 to 4% that other developed nations spend, not only does the United States healthcare system have a claim denial rate of 18%, with some plans much higher than that, and some companies in the 30% range. Not only that, but at the same time, healthcare corporations generate billions of dollars annually in pure profits, while their C-suite level executives and the CEOs generate personally millions of dollars every single year. So how do we fix this? Well, first, we have to be aware of the problem, which I think you probably are now. Second, we have to come up with solutions, and some of them already exist here in this country and in other developed nations. And I'm going to use a US healthcare company as an example, Kaiser Permanente. Now, is this organization a perfect organization? Absolutely not. But their claim denial rate is the lowest in the industry at 7%. What makes them different? Well, simply, they are a non-for-profit organization, which means they do not have investors to appease. And on top of that, any and all profits generated by this organization are reinvested into research and development and bettering healthcare outcomes. Now, does this mean that their CEO is not highly paid? No, absolutely not. Does this mean that other C-suite executives are not well compensated? No, absolutely not. And does this mean that their medical staff, like doctors, are not well compensated? No, absolutely not. What it means is that it is very clear that when you have a for-profit mechanism inside our healthcare system, you are going to have more negative outcomes as opposed to a non-for-profit mechanism. So is that a perfect solution? No, but it's a start. And as someone with a degree in finance, I understand that capitalism has its place. And when you look at the other options, it might even be the best choice. With that said, I'm not so sure that capitalism belongs in an industry that directly impacts people's ability to live. On top of that, another solution would just simply be more transparency. A lot of states don't even have laws in place that require these companies to disclose their denial rates. And perhaps we should institute something that limits administrative costs. If 8% of our healthcare costs as Americans go straight to administrative expenses, and you compare that to 2 to 4% of other developed countries, there is a disconnect there somewhere. Are those companies more efficient than we are? No, we are America. We are supposed to lead when it comes to technological advances and when it comes to a first-rate economy. So if other countries can have a 2 to 4% expense rate for administrative costs, maybe we should implement a cap ourselves. And on top of all this, I want you to understand who this is coming from. It is coming from someone who has, for the last 10 years, basically invested their entire net worth. I understand that investments in public companies creates innovation because there is a profit motive. But when it comes to healthcare, the system that we have has been shown to not work. So to wrap this video up, I do not condone violence as the answer. With that said, I understand the things that have been going on for decades that led up to this recent event. So while this recent event will not solve anything by itself, it is our duty as Americans and as people who like finance to become more aware and to push our leaders and our representatives for better policies, because the healthcare system currently is not perfect. And not only is it not perfect, it is nowhere near perfect. And I want to hear your thoughts, either positive or negative. If you've had experiences that directly relate to this in the healthcare industry, please let me know your thoughts and your comments below. Other than that, I hope this video was informative. Even though this is a somber topic and probably not the most fun, it is something that we have to talk about if we're ever going to fix it. But as always, if you like personal finance, world economics, and investing broken down simply, and once in a while a video like this that relates somewhat to finance, then you're in the right place. So I hope to see you in the next video. Until then, take care.